All right. Are we seeing it? Podcast, Health in the Real World podcast, season 2, episode 3. Really happy to invite a friend of mine back, Dr. Marcia Martin. Marcia, you've been on twice, right? You've been on 2 other episodes.
Yeah, I just can't stop hanging out with you.
We have a lot of fun. I love what you talk about and your whole message to people. It's about self-worth. It's about specifically today's episode title, The Power of Self-Belief. And I have, quick intro about you, and then we'll get into it. So tell everyone who you are, what you do.
Well, I am a heart healer. I help people recover from abuse and trauma by helping them clear and heal the heart. And now let's be clear that abuse and trauma doesn't necessarily mean that somebody came after you with a whip every day of your life. If you felt that it was abusive, or you didn't fit, or you were not part of a loving, cohesive whole, or you just had an incident that really left a mark on you, then you have experienced abuse and trauma in your life. And it's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be released from. So we now have counseling that is pay what you can through the Heart Healing Foundation. So no one will be refused or turned away. The only requirement is that you are willing to do the work.
Wow, that's great. That is a very generous offering. That's actually a very good segue to the first question. You mentioned a bit of a misconception, right? Doesn't necessarily mean somebody was after you every day with a whip. It can be these small things that are traumatizing, especially for children, right? So are there any other common misconceptions about self-belief that you'd want to address?
Well, I think for me, the most important thing are the ways that we are told we can and cannot address ourselves. So, there's always this argument between, are you selfless or selfish? And if you're selfless, then you're this wonderful, magnificent person. And then if you're selfish, you want everything for yourself. Or are you confident, or are you boastful and arrogant? Well, if you're confident, then you believe in yourself. You recognize that you have value. But if you're arrogant and boastful, then you're just blowing yourself up and have no worth at all, or no reason to be talking well about yourself. So if we just take those two very abusive ways of looking at our lives, we'll see the crux of the problem, which is we are taught from very young ages not to be selfish. But
Right.
then we are told that the definition of selfish is when you hold anything of value for yourself if someone else needs it. And that is completely incorrect. That is actually, in the eyes of the divine, in the mind and the heart of the divine, that is actually being selfish. Because when you give everything of value that you own to someone else, no matter how much they need it, you now become unable to care for yourself. So you become now another drain in the group, instead of the one that can be the overflowing well that keeps lifting others up. So the idea instead is to honor yourself and love yourself so much that you give yourself everything that you need, whether it is praise or whether it is recognition, good food, sleep, exercise, whatever it is you need to be at your optimal. When you give that to yourself, you are saying, I am worthy and I am happy to give from my overflow, but I will not destroy myself for someone else. I'm not going to be another casualty on the road of good intentions. And this is so important. because when you do feel good about yourself, you can be confident and you are not being arrogant. You're saying, I love myself. I believe in myself. I think I have value. Well, these are all true statements because you do have value. And it's not arrogant to say that.
Right.
It is, and yet, if you speak with someone who has been raised in an environment that perhaps they would say, I wasn't abused, but they were told, oh, you're selfish, or oh, don't boast about or brag about yourself. Nobody wants to hear
Right.
that. And then they were kept getting pushed down, and they come out of that not recognizing that when they refuse to care for themselves, somebody else is going to have to somewhere along the way. Or when they are unable to walk into a room with confidence, then whatever gift they were going to bring is left at the door. So
Mm,
when we recognize it's not really about us, it's really about how we are going to show up and serve in the world, then we can understand, well, if I am willing to gift myself self love and self acceptance and respect, then I can show up and be of value. And if I am willing to feel confident about what I'm offering, then others will actually take my gift and make use of it.
wow. Now, that's so powerful. A lot of things came up for me there. I love how you talk about, uh, I forget the exact words, but that if you're not giving to yourself and you walk into a room, you have nothing to give. What you came for is not there. Have you heard the quote? It blew my mind away. You're not required to set yourself on fire to keep anyone else warm.
Yes.
I was
E-
like,
e-
wow.
exactly. And for all of those of us who are empathic, who want to give and give and give, it is quite mind blowing to recognize that the one that you need to give to first is yourself. It is such a reversal of um, understanding, I think.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
it's like a reverse training. Oh, wait a minute. I'm supposed to receive as well. And we must understand that the universe is always perfectly balanced. So if we are giving and giving and giving to the point of exhaustion and not receiving, we are completely out of
We're
balance,
out of that
o-
balance. Yeah.
out of alignment, unable to receive that divine guidance, which gives us even more to offer. And then we're constantly wondering, what am I doing wrong? And the main thing you're doing wrong is refusing to be in the natural order of things. There
Mm,
is no plant or animal, there's no child that says, I'm going to give and give and give to the point of exhaustion and never receive. They
right.
all recognize, because they are still in the divine flow, they all recognize that when we are in our balance, when we allow ourselves to be harmonious, then we can live our lives to the fullest. We just
Yeah.
get these belief systems planted in us from childhood. And if we don't stop and question them as adults, we will continue doing the same thing.
Right. What's interesting is that you just mentioned children, and I've noticed this. I have 4 kids, and they are well behaved, right? I'm using air quotes for anyone who can't see me. They're well behaved or doing what I want them to do when they already have what they need. And it's taken me so long, but I finally realized they're not misbehaving necessarily, as they're just incapable of articulating like you or I would, like, hey, I'm really hungry, or I had a bad day, I need a 5-minute nap, or I need this, I need that. And when they're deficient in something that they really need, they're going to express themselves in whatever way they can. They're going to say, I need, I need, I need. Once they are filled up, they are the sweetest, so loving. Everyone loves to be around them. They're giving. They're, selfless at that point. And I
They're
think it's interesting
overflowing.
what
They're
you
they're
said.
They are filled with goodness and vitality, and
Yeah.
they can't hold it. They don't want to hold it. They just let it overflow. It's wonderful to be around them. However, if they are not well modulated, and most children aren't, they get empty. But
Yeah.
instead of sitting there saying, "Oh, poor me, I'm empty," they don't have that constriction. Instead, they say, "Hey, I'm empty.
Give it to me. Give me something.
I'm worthy."
Right.
And isn't it sad that all of those beings that come so pure in their understanding of needs are to be met and joy is to be given freely without expectation, because it's just so fun to be alive. Isn't it sad that those beings then become adults with restrictions? If we all lived as though we were children and we communicated, "I'm so happy," and then we were able to say, because now we have the words, "I am so hungry. I am so hurt. I am so lonely. I am," instead of hiding it behind a whole lot of misconceptions or pretense of trying to pretend we don't need.
Yeah. So this is a good segue for another question I have. How can parents and educators nurture that self-belief in children and in young adults?
The most important thing that you can do for your children, and I didn't even recognize this when my children were young, but I happened to be in a position where I was teaching children who had already been told that they were failures. And
Mm,
it just wouldn't gel for me because I, at the time, was feeling very low and like a failure. So I started manipulating the circumstances so they could feel like they were winners and brilliant and smart. And I just loved the heck out of them. And that is what they taught me, is because I was loving them and really not, I didn't understand the heart at all at that time. I thought I was just doing brain to brain communication, but it was loving these kids. I was so invested in their progress that I was willing to do anything to make them feel good about themselves. So I just loved the heck out of them and kept telling them they were brilliant. And over the course of the year, they became better able to do the work because they lost the fear. So, no matter what age your children are, tell them they're beautiful, tell them they're perfect, tell them they're magnificent, tell them they're brilliant, tell them they are the most wonderful person that you have ever encountered, and how delighted you are that they have chosen you. Give them what they need, and they will bless you in so many ways.
wow, it's very inspiring. Um, some examples that you've seen of public figures, maybe that many of us know. Has there been an example that you've seen somebody and go, "Wow, they really have a strong sense of self-belief," in the sense of what you were talking about, not arrogance, but that true
Right.
self-belief.
Well, I have two. I mean, the COVID epidemic made me think of FDR. You know, here's a man in a wheelchair who
Right.
leads a country out of what was probably the most devastation that we've ever experienced. And then Nelson Mandela, who took 20 years of false imprisonment and rose from that to be a prominent figure for the world, not just for his country. And I think it's so important that both of these men never said, "I'm so great."
Right.
They kept saying, "We can do this together. We can unite behind the common good and understanding that we've got to work together and love each other and support each other. And by doing that, we will become more." And I think that's what we need to understand as a world. There's so much division, and it's just so unnecessary. We are one world. We may be split up into different countries and different states and different communities, but we are one people, one world. And if we just begin governing ourselves with love, what a world we would live in.
What a world. Yeah. Wow. That's a great visualization. And I love those examples. Those were two very great men who, I mean, like you said, FDR in a wheelchair, what a hindrance. But what, he served 4 terms as president
Yeah, I think
and
so.
led us, yeah, the Depression,
Led us into prosperity. Now,
right?
Eleanor, his wife, was also a magnificent pillar of strength.
Absolutely.
And, they show what the unification of purpose can do. If we would all just unify behind the purpose of let's look for the good, let's find something about the other person we can admire and share that with them. Whoa, wouldn't
Yeah.
that be?
It's I think you're right you're hitting the nail on the head where, when this is why I like having these one-on-one conversations because there is a lot of division in the world, but I also think there's not. I think there's the appearance of division. For example, if we look at the news, and depending on which station you're watching, you're going to have a certain opinion, right? And depending on
Right,
how much credence you give to that reporter. But sit down and talk one-on-one, even with somebody on the other side, guarantee you're going to be able to find many things in common. And I think that's something I wouldn't say it's missing, but I would say that we can cultivate that in our world, right? And even technologically, me and you, we're not in the same room now, but we can have these conversations, these one-on-one conversations, and meet at that heart level. I think it's very important and for the future.
yes, and what do we all want? We want a place where we can feel safe, some sort of home. And it doesn't have to be the same home for everyone, but it needs to be a place where you feel safe. We need food and clothing, and we need to feel good about what we are offering into the world. And that can't come unless we feel good about ourselves and safe in whatever place we call home. And so, if we would just begin there by offering every person a home, we have a terrible homeless population. Why? Why are we not saying to these people, here is a place for you to stay that is reasonable and safe until you are able to provide for yourself? And if you are never able, we will do this for you because you are a human just like me, and I want you to have something so that you can feel good about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on the homeless thing. And it's funny, I have conversations with people, whether I know them to be a little bit more liberal politically or conservative politically. Everyone I talk to about this agrees. And I don't know if I'm pitching it slightly differently, but I think everybody wants this, right? Nobody wants to see in the year 2023 people sleeping on the streets as if we're in the third world or in like
No.
1505, right? Where we can't even provide that basic necessity. There's a lot of other things that go into that as well, whether it's abuse, we were talking about that, trauma, PTSD, drug addiction, whatever it is. But again, I feel like it's sort of like a reflection on where we are. It's like, yes, a lot of people are living in great abundance. Our needs are met, even kind of like the average person, right? Needs are met. We have shelter, food, water, etc. But then we have this segment of society that's really hurting, really struggling right now.
And the quote, which I can't get exactly, is, we're only as good as our weakest link. So, yes, they have limitations, but so meet them where they are and provide them something. And then once they are provided for, let's see where they are able to go from there. Some of them may not make it any further. That's okay.
Yeah.
But many have much to offer, and they cannot from the position that they are in.
So this is another good segue. I think this will be my last major question of the podcast, but I think it's really important. So looking at someone like a homeless person who maybe's been out on the streets for years potentially, or even someone who's not homeless, maybe you or me or one of our friends, can self-belief be rebuilt after a major setback? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Because self belief is just, what do I think of myself? And because I work in the heart, even though I studied psychology and worshiped the brain for years, I'm now devoted to the heart. Because I understand that the heart holds the answers, the place you need to begin is where the pain is stored. So you go to the heart and say, I know that I am hurting, or that you are hurting. And I understand that this situation may feel like it's out of your control. But if we take a look at what it is that you're holding on to and we examine it, you may decide that you no longer need to hold on to that pain or the memory of that abuse or the recollection of the trauma. And you may realize that you're far away from when that event occurred and you don't need those same coping strategies, so you can release them. But we never just release something, we must release and replace. So you need to release the I'm no good, and that's why I'm allowed to be abused, or I deserve this, and that's why I'm going through this. Release the false negative belief and replace it with truth. All children, all beings are part of the divine universal whole. As such, you are beautiful and brilliant and perfect as you are. And the most beautiful thing about this is there is no one anywhere that doesn't have within them what they require in order to live a life that is absolutely sensational for whatever journey they've chosen for themselves. So there is no disability, there is no kind of handicap in any way that can prevent you from having the life that you intended and have it be filled with value. You just got lost along the way. So take out the trash, get rid of that negativity, all the hurt, the pain, and the reasons why not, and replace them with the truth. And the truth is, no matter where you are or what you are doing, you are perfect for this moment. When you accept that you are perfect where you are, you automatically create for yourself a bridge to get closer to where you want to go because you're no longer holding yourself back with condemnation. So begin where you are. Oh, I can accept myself. Find something you love about yourself. I don't care how far down you have to dig. Get in there, find something about you that you love. Focus on that. Acknowledge, well, I'm here at the bottom of the well. Must be here for a reason because I am always in the perfect place at the perfect time for wherever I am in my life. Now, from that place of perfection, you can decide, do I like this well? Am I happy in the darkness? If so, then let your self stay there without complaining. Just stay there. Okay, I'm in the darkness. When you get tired of it, I think I'm ready to find some light. What direction can I go where I'll feel even better than I do right now? Keep moving toward the place that feels better, away from the pain, the trauma, the abuse, all of those mistakes of the past. but keep reminding yourself no matter where you are perfect because that's where you are. So it must be valuable to you. Doesn't need to be valuable to anyone else, just you. You're the important one. Allow yourself to be perfect, create a bridge, decide whether you want to go forward, and when you're ready, start walking on the bridge, recognizing you are perfect in every moment, and you will continue. If you focus on what is right and what feels good, you will continue creating bridges and get momentum and find that you have left that place of hurt and pain far behind.
Nice. Wow. Great words of wisdom for everybody. Great ending to the show today. Dr. Marcia, how do people get in touch with you? How do they work with you and find out what's going on with you?
Come to my website. It's mmhearthealer.com or Marcia Martin, the Heart Healer. And if you are interested in our Pay What You Can counseling, there's a tab for the foundation, or you can go directly to that website. It's the hearthealingfoundation.org. And we are just excited and delighted to share. So we have constant teaching going on YouTube, in addition to the counseling. And with the counseling, you don't just get help, you also get access to these huge library of resources that the angels, these tools and techniques that the angels have gifted me through the years, because I just think it is so important that we open ourselves up to help no matter where it comes from.
Right.
So it can be from our children, it can be from our coworkers, our spouses, partners, friends, wherever. Just keep yourself open to learning, and you will be constantly amazed at the beautiful ways in which your prayers, your thoughts, and your dreams are being answered.
Wow. On that, thank you so much, Dr. Marcia Martin, for joining me today. Really appreciate that. And third time's a charm. I really do enjoy these conversations. It's they're so powerful. And everyone listening, reach out to Marcia and work on the heart and talk about that self belief. So hope
Yes,
people will
you
implement this.
are amazing. You know, if I'll leave two things. First, let's just hold the affirmation. Everything is always working out for me. When you come from that mindset and that heart belief, everything is working out for me. You will find ways, even when you believe it is absolutely impossible.
Mhm.
So just allow that to be your mantra. Everything is always working out for me. And you just keep staying in that space until you see the road become clear in front of you. And the other thing is to tell yourself every day, I am magnificent. I am magnificent. I am magnetic. I am any I am positive statement, so that you are reinforcing the power that is you.